Hey everyone, this is Chess Coach Aaron again, and I'm doing the third game of my 3 games with the Danish Gambit Blitz games. And the Danish Gambit, I'm trying to get all you guys to probably use it, not as a main opening choice perhaps, but as a way of getting better as being an attacking player. Danish Gambit is great to get the attacking ideas flowing and to keep you on the edge of your seat, if you will, because it's a great, spicy opening also, just for fun, and a lot of fun, a lot of spice. All right, so the main idea of the Danish Gambit is when you give up at least 2 pawns if they're accepting. And, let's do this correctly. E4, E5, D4 takes D4, C3 takes C3, bishop C4, great place for a bishop to develop, and they accept every pawn they can along the way. Boom, boom, boom. What does white get for this? Well, very rapid development. As you can see, nothing is actually developed for black. Not a single thing. While for white, we have 3 things developed. 1, 2, 3, including 2 beautifully placed bishops. And it's not just the pieces and pawn which are developed, which help control that sweet center, but it's also the queen being very happy. Tons of places to go, and if we can get a knight involved, got plenty of pieces. Plus, if we can castle, get our rook involved, plenty of pieces. So we get a lot for our 2 pawns, but 2 pawns is a lot, as I keep saying. All right, black has a lot of choices here. And what they played was the main move, bishop b4, check. Get the bishop out of the way. They want to be able to castle. They're up 2 pawns, maybe make a trade. Makes a lot of sense. Whenever they check, you got to block. And I usually play knight c3. Now I always played it actually. But there are a lot of players, and once in a while I'll still do it. I'll change it up. A lot of players who swear by knight going to d2 instead, keeping this long diagonal open, right? You're putting pressure on that g-pawn. Makes a lot of sense. But I actually like going to c3, and later it's going to help with controlling d5. d5 is very important to control a lot of these Danish Gambit games. A lot of these games, e4, e5 openings, a lot of them, d5 is one of the key squares to control. And right now, this might help control it later. Of course, right now it's absolutely pinned. All right, so had to save my king, knight c3. And now they play d6. And just like on this move, black has several different choices. Here, black has several different choices too. These I actually kind of want to look at. Black played d6. So now there's already ideas in the air. Ideas of bishop takes f7 check. And the queen can go to b3 with check. And I get this bishop. So I gain a pawn and make him lose castling. But I do lose the light squared bishop. Something actually you have to think twice about sometimes in these type of games, especially when you're 2 pawns down. Because I'll get a pawn back, so I'll be 1 pawn down, but my light squared bishop is pretty useful to attack, especially if the king loses castling, but I have to give up the bishop, the light squared bishop, to make him lose castling. So it's kind of a, you have to really want to do it at the right time kind of moment, but it's still up in the air. I would actually rather, instead of taking here, playing queen b3, which is what I did play in the game. Very strong. Attacks that bishop, it's not protected, and now we have this battery. So 2 threats, unprotected bishop and battery. And after they capture, which is what they did, and I capture back, and now I have f-pawn hanging, g-pawn hanging. And they have a lot of problems with this position. But let's just back up for a moment. I want to go over, instead of d6, what their choices are. We'll go a little bit further, of course, in this game. Fun, wild game. And in Blitz, this is a 3-minute game. Very quickly, it went crazy. I'll show you the end of the game real quick, just so you can see the ending. But ended up being a draw and perpetual check. I kind of didn't have time to look for anything else, but we'll get to that in a moment. All right, so they played d6. And what are some choices here? Well, the main choice, I believe, is actually knight f6. That's what a lot of people play, and that makes sense after you get the bishop out of the way. Now they can try to castle, so that makes a lot of sense. And they are kind of attacking the e-pawn, right? Because this knight is not protecting as it's pinned. Okay. This is actually, I think, the main line that I've played the most, and usually I play knight to e2, protecting, not that it really needs protection, and more importantly, getting ready to castle. I'm even offering a 3rd pawn. But notice here they have 2 pieces developed. I have 4 pieces developed that I'm ready to castle. Plus, I still have better control of that center. So taking a pawn, probably not a great idea. I've had this exact game happen several times, and I'll just show you real quick. I'll speed through it. Notice these bishops are just too strong, and they castle, and white already has a 1 game. Threatening checkmate. This f-pawn is pinned. The only way to reasonably stop it is put the g-pawn up, and queen goes to the side, and again, his battery is just too strong. F-pawn is pinned, so I've won a few games like this, and you'll find this in a database. All your databases for the Danish Gambit, there's been quite a few games exactly like this one. But knight f6 is the main line, and I would follow up with knight e2 and castling. All right. But instead of d6, they could also play knight c6, and they could also play instead queen e7. I kind of like queen e7 because it's a little bit spicier. But of course, I still just play knight to e2. Got to block that e line so I can castle. And notice, I don't mind queen e7s in some of these positions as long as the e pawn is still there and his bishop's already developed. Kind of makes a little sense. So queen e7 I think is not a bad idea also. Knight c6 is played kind of odd too. Doesn't quite make sense. Here I play knight f3, and I will right away castle. Though you still can play knight e2 also. But usually when my opponent plays knight c6, I play f3 and kind of balance it out. That's pretty standard stuff in the Danish Gambit. All right, but they play d6, and it doesn't help them castle. Yes, it does let the light squared bishop perhaps come out. The most important thing it's doing, the reason why they play it, is it covers e5. So now they can play knight f6 and not worry about me playing e5 perhaps right away. But this is a little slow in this position. And again, nothing's protecting this bishop. And this allows me just to play super strong queen b3. So already I think I like white's position. These are the kind of Danish Gambit positions we're shooting for. Even though I didn't play it as well as I could have perhaps. Still fun, spicy, and everyone can get better attacking. All right, let's see what they did. Well, they have to take care of this bishop being attacked. Does knight up work? Well, I'm just going to take this pawn check, so knight up does not work. Well, they take on c3 with check. Makes sense because it's check. And then after I take back, well, again, how do they protect both of these pawns? F-pawn and G-pawn. So I'm getting something back with an attack, so I already like white's position. Very common, they played knight f6. Blocks one bishop, and they accept the fact that they're losing castling, and I get this pawn. But I already think white has wonderful, wonderful chances after this. Are there any other choices? Well, I have had a person play, because I've had this type of position several times where they just play king f8 instead. And the reason for that is it protects the g-pawn right away, and they just accept that they're losing the f-pawn anyway. So since I'm going to take the f-pawn, just makes sense. They get out of the way and protect. They just do it ahead of time, that's all. So king f8. The other real option, though, would be something like queen d7, which makes a little sense here, too. You're protecting this pawn, and you're letting this occur, right? Boom. And you're going to lose the rook. So maybe queen d7, not so good. All right. So let's back it up, and boop, boop, boop. Knight f6. All right, so I take that pawn check. King slides over, and white is already doing very well. And here's where I actually just played a standard move, which is not that good right now. And the reason why it's not that good is I played knight f3. Well, this e-pawn is hanging. Nothing's protecting it, and I still have yet to castle. That's why I played knight f3, because I want to castle. But my king is still in the center, and because my bishop is on f7, it's one attacker, one defender. If they play queen e7, guess what? Boop. Attacking bishop and pawn. And if I run away with the bishop to the wrong spot, like let's say I go bishop c4, well, they're taking with check. And this is not what the Danish player kind of wants. And this is the one danger if you don't pay attention. As white, your king will come under fire, and they'll be able to kind of save the game. Perhaps they attack my king, I attack their king. And since they're up one or two pawns, if they can get their development going, besides attacking my king, they're up a lot of pawns. They have perhaps a winning game. So that's the danger. All right, so queen e7 definitely makes knight f3 look bad. But here is actually the best move, the winning move, the continue attacking move, and that is e5, which is slightly different. Notice the bishop's protecting that e-pawn. So even though there's queen e7 attacking a bishop, Yes, it does pin this pawn, so I can't take the knight immediately. But there's a big difference. The queen's not going to take with check because my bishop's protecting. But by playing e5, I'm already threatening a knight, trying to make him do something. And notice, can they actually take with the pawn? Well, this bishop takes advantage of this very weak position of the king, and this is the whole idea of the Danish Gambit. Many times these bishops just win the game by themselves. So, by playing e5, it's very easy for black to go wrong here. They actually would have to play queen e7, I think, just to pin this, and perhaps eye that f7 square. Plus, they're threatening the bishop, which makes white kind of do something. So that probably would be the best move in this position. Let's see. After queen e7, what was the move that we could play here? Was it bishop c4, bishop d5? I think it was bishop d5. I believe that is the correct move, or is it just simply bishop c4? And notice there are a couple good choices. You want to get out of the way, and you still have these threats. And now you're going to be playing knight e2 instead, because once this pawn is unpinned, it unleashes the threats. And notice, again, it still can't capture because this bishop would go to b4. Deadly win. So knight e2 is kind of the threat here while we still keep that king under surveillance. That's a pretty strong position for white. I love that position. I've kind of had it a couple of times. It's a fun position. But I should have played e5. That's how you kind of get to that king. All right, so the other choice here would have been simply knight e2 instead of knight to f3. Notice the e line, once they play queen e7 one more time, whoops, is going to be open with check, but by playing knight e2, I'm actually blocking that up, and I can still castle. So knight e2 was the other choice if I wasn't going to play or didn't see playing e5, which in this game I did not see to play. So I played knight f3, which seemed pretty standard and I was happy with, but all of a sudden, tables kind of turn. And that's what can also happen in the Danish Gambit. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to show this. So let's see, queen e7. I had to run back with my bishop. I decided on d5. They played c6. Kind of smart, I guess. Attacking, okay? And I have to make some decisions here, and I kind of panicked again. Remember, this is a blitz game with 3 minutes. One of the things and the advices for the Danish Gambit is don't trade your diagonal pieces if you can help it. So I really should not, and even considered, if I don't have to, bishop takes f6. But I was really worried about this knight still being active here. And I figured if I could get rid of the knight, at some point I can go forward with e5 also, no matter how the capture occurred. So I figured it wasn't too bad. So I kind of panicked. What I should do is probably back up with the bishop, or there's a very interesting castling. And notice you have to look for these type of moves. Castle, they take the piece, and now I play the e5. Very common theme. And even though I'm down a piece, notice once again, can it take with the pawn? The answer is no. And I'm attacking this knight. This rook and this rook are going to come right into the game very quickly. I got a whole bunch of squares and choices to put pressure. This knight is ready to operate. And again, they don't have all their pieces ready to go and defend the king. So even though we're down a piece, we have all of our pieces involved. So that's actually a great idea. So even sacrificing a bishop at d5 would have been pretty interesting. So instead, I took bishop on f6. They took with the g-pawn real quick. They could have taken with the queen. And I was thinking, this is actually what I thought they were going to do. I was thinking rook c1. And they can't take the bishop because of this pin. And right now, there's a lot going on. And then I'd be able to castle. This is what I was thinking of. It's still perhaps at some point going forward. This is what I was kind of expecting. But they didn't take with that. They took with the g-pawn. And it kind of holds down the fort on e5. All right, let's keep going. Kind of felt like I had to do something with the bishop, right? It's being attacked, right? By the c-pawn. But again, I was thinking rook c1, just like I was before. So that move I was really considering. And it looks kind of okay, except the difference is I can't go e5 and kind of mix it up. So losing the bishop at some point doesn't do the same thing. What I should have been considering, and I didn't even see, along the same lines would be queen c2. And this is a nice move for a couple reasons. Number one, protects this pawn. Number two, pins for c8, the c-pawn, right? And it gives a new place for the bishop to run back as needed on b3. So actually queen c2 might have been an interesting move also. All right, but I saved the bishop, and here's where the fun for black started. Queen takes e4. I was determined to keep attacking, and I wanted to get this rook out. So I should play king f1. That's the safe move. And many times in these type of things, I go, oh boy, and this is what I play. But notice, we're down a lot of pawns, and when they go forward and get some development, black's actually winning. So I wanted to keep it spicy, and I played king d2. I figured a king can defend itself if I can get my pieces out. And I still have a chance to maybe go get that king. So they play d5, bishop d3, queen check, king over. Notice the computer's saying, why are you going out into the emptiness in front of all this black possibilities for expansion? Why are you not going back here and hiding behind your own pawns, which maybe that's the safe move. I'm still trying to mix it up maybe a little bit. All right, they're trying to develop. And I did see I could go check on a3. But I knew that they were thinking about knight c5. So here's what my plan was. I put my king to go this way so my rook could come out. And I was expecting to play knight c5, which they did. And now I pin it. Boom. And I want to try to get my other rook active and somehow figure out how to go get that king. You know, maybe attack the queen, maybe get a rook up to the right spot. You know, it's tough. It's tough. I'm trying to mix it up, even though I'm down material now, and my king is in the center of the board. Not a happy king. All right. They actually played b6, right? Got to protect the knight. And I didn't look long enough. Maybe I find it. Rook b1. Rook ab1. Very interesting, keeping the pressure. Notice, even with my king over here, he only has 2 tall pieces in the area, and one is pinned. So he could try to bring the bishop over, and by moving the b-pawn, the bishop now can come over. Doesn't have to protect that b-pawn. But by me playing rook ab1, I'm actually threatening perhaps taking this pawn, the b-pawn, because I'll get the rook. And by taking this with the rook, maybe loses protection of the knight, and I'm still kind of attacking. So that would have been a very interesting move, starting to get this rook active and keeping the pressure on. Not all these type of moves are easy to see, though, for me or for the opponent, in blitz games and Danish gambits and good fun, all kinds of spiciness. All right, so when you're down in some material, you got to try to keep mixing it up, and that's what I was trying to do. All right, so here, though, they played b6, and I played knight d2. Why did I do it? Good question. Well, I wasn't worried about pawns anymore. As a matter of fact, I'm hoping they take the f-pawn, and with my knight and bishop guarding f1, I can put a rook, depending on which rook goes here, and hopefully keep attacking. Notice, I almost want them to take that. I might even try to egg on the queen with a g3 move and go ahead and take it. Plus this knight, since it's next to the king, kind of helps protect it a little bit more. And to be honest, I was very nervous about c4 and e4, right? The knight can go here. If the knight captures, the queen can go to c4. So I kind of played here, and I'm overprotecting some of the squares near the king. They probably should play bishop f5 and start trying to trade pieces or somehow get the king safer. But black does have a nice edge here, but this is not easy. Their pieces are just not coordinated, at least not at the moment. All right, so I put my knight on d2, and they played king g7. Computer saying f7 is better. Why? Well, because it covers these squares with the king. Don't forget, kings can be active. And right away, I already was thinking of, whoops, checking on e7, because now perhaps I could get a pawn, and controlling that 7th rank is pretty important. And where does the king go after this check, right? Well, it's not going here, right? I got a bishop. So suddenly, maybe I can get close to the king. And king g7, play g3, attack that queen, hoping they take the f-pawn. And guess what? They really did. And notice this is how the kind of games can swing with the Danish Gambit. Suddenly, it's white that might be doing better. First I checked. I was really considering putting my rook here, but first I want to check and see where the king goes. I can always bring the other rook over. And they played king h6. I'm going to say suspicious and a tough place to put your king. My bishop's already covered this. The rook's over here. At some point, perhaps my queen can swing over. I have a rook coming over here. Suddenly, I think white is actually doing very well. And rook f1. Boom. Where does the queen go? Well, you could take more stuff, but I don't think that's advisable, opening up the H-line. So it makes sense. They put the queen on d4. Perhaps they have 1, 2 attackers, and they can trade away some pieces. And again, if they can make some trades, get rid of the queen, the king's in an awkward spot again, right? And I'm aiming at a pawn that's going to do check, perhaps. But if I can trade away a couple pieces and get the other pieces out, keep their king safe, maybe they're doing okay again. So queen here does make a little sense, besides the fact it does guard f6 for the moment, for sure. So now I played bishop f5, and these are hard moves to see. The best move, and the computer's right for this one. Notice the computer's not right for everything, but sometimes it is. That's why we use computers. Bishop e2, and it takes away some squares near the king. So now why is that a better move? Well, I just mentioned the fact that they are actually threatening queen takes d3 and getting some trades done, getting the queens off the board and taking this bishop out of the game also. That being said, I want to get my bishop away from d3 because of that. So I figured f5, allowing him to trade, but I have another rook getting closer to this king. And I was running low on time. I admit, running low on time. Once you get to a minute or less, you're starting to move faster and you're not thinking quite the way you should. All right, but I played bishop f5, but bishop e2 makes a lot more sense. All right, bishop f5. Again, you don't want to trade diagonal pieces if you can help it. Notice I'm doing that again. They took, I took. And here, we'll just play through the last moves real quick. Wanted to keep this video a little bit shorter, and you'll see how I got a perpetual. But I'll stop it at one point. There actually was a forced mate, but with 4 seconds left, to see that far, that quick, with 4 seconds is kind of tough, but maybe you guys can do it. All right, so let's just run through some moves here real quick. Boom, boom, and again, they were very low on time too, so that answers the reason why a lot of these bad moves were played. All right, so here we are. We have the discovered check. And, not discovered check, sorry, perpetual check, what am I saying? And I have 7 seconds, if you look at the bottom over here, right? I have 7 seconds left. And if it's a lot of time left on the clock, I'm taking that rook. Of course, I'm up a queen. I'm going to win. But I have 4 seconds. I don't want to lose on time. I'm up a queen for a rook or a straight-up queen. But can I get checkmate? Instead, I see I have a perpetual, just going back and forth, right? Their king goes back and forth. And 7 seconds, I didn't have a lot of time to think. All right, I just take the draw. So I go back and forth and accept the draw. But let's back it up. Let's back it up. We get to this position. So there actually is a forced checkmate. Kind of hard to see, though. And can I do it in 4 seconds? Well, that's the next question, because it is some moves, but it is a forced checkmate. It means that black can't avoid it, can't escape it. We have a checkmate in 6 here. So what do you guys think is the first move? Well, I have it on the screen. And king has to get away from check. And whoops, let's do the actual moves to get checkmate. And it's h3. You don't even take the rook. You set up a checkmate because g4 now is the threat of checkmate. They have to deal with g4 threat. The only way to do it is rook over. And now we go forward. Check. They have to capture. And now the surprising way to keep the king trapped is queen to f5 check. And now notice, if king moves over to h4, you have checkmate. And if, let's see, if they put rook to block, then again you have checkmate. So we back it up, and they'll play over here to h6. But now we take with the queen, and notice the king is totally trapped. Can't go anywhere. Their own pawn traps them, and we have them pinned. So there's nothing for them to do except wait for checkmate. And checkmate. Could I have seen this, though, when I'm doing the perpetual, and I have here, it says 6 seconds, 6.2 seconds, and you can see I get the perpetual at the end, and I have 4.1 seconds. But it's still a lot of fun. I learned a little something, and I'm practicing being an attacker. Are you guys practicing your attack? Use the Danish Gambit. Practice your attack. Once you get really good at attacking, of course, use other openings too. All right, this is Coach Aaron out. Peace.